The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
The National Government, the farmers' friends. Well, I bet that member over there who's a farmer, I bet he's pleased he's got some off-farm income. If he was a normal farmer, that is. Mr. Speaker, never have confidence levels been so low as they are at the moment across the whole of the agricultural sector, because the National Government has completely failed to offer any vision or any direction across agriculture. The horticulture sector might have been one exception, but the events of the last week have even put a cloud over that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue is what has National done with its funding? It has sprayed funding around the primary sectors like some feral cat trying to identify its territory, Mr. Speaker, and get support from every single sector by giving them a bit of money but providing them with no leadership and no direction. Mr. Speaker, I'll go to a recent article here from one of the government's cheerleaders, John Brackenridge, Mr. Speaker, and he has said, and I like what he says, he would like New Zealand to be known as the best country in the world by being the best country for the world. Well, Mr. Speaker, while we have child poverty, while we have homelessness, while we have students indebted to high levels, Mr. Speaker, we cannot claim to be the best country for the world, and Mr. John Brackenridge's hopes and aspirations will fail under the current National Government, Mr. Speaker. I go to another recent document identifying some of the issues within the agricultural sector, the KPMG Agribusiness Report. It is a very good document. 170 of agribusiness leaders have come together and given their advice. The first bit of advice they offer is that biosecurity is the #1 concern for all people across the primary sectors. And what have we had recently, Mr. Speaker? Well, the government claims that they've put more money into biosecurity. In fact, $100 million is coming from visitors to this country in a levy being taken at a rate of $23 per visitor to offset taxpayer funding. So the National Government's paying less money for biosecurity, and visitors to the country are supplementing that. And indeed, the system is still failing. Mr. Speaker, we've had black grass, velvet leaf, and now, Mr. Speaker, we've got Wairarapa pea seeds with weevils, Mr. Speaker, and a eucalyptus leaf beetle that the government has tried to keep under wraps, offering real threat across the whole of the primary sectors, Mr. Speaker. That is just part of the failure of the biosecurity system under this National Government. People across agriculture see it as the #1 concern, and they have every right to, because this government has dropped the ball on biosecurity. The second issue that farmers and foresters want to see under control is food safety. Mr. Speaker, I pick up a document, and later in this House today we'll have a food safety bill, Mr. Speaker, that is the direct outcome of a massive failure in the WPC 80 inquiry, Mr. Speaker, where Fonterra initially, through a mistake, but then government agencies, through incompetence and a lack of funding, Mr. Speaker, failed to identify the fact that there was not botulism in any WPC 80, Mr. Speaker, but in their reputation across the world at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker, has effectively been tarnished, because this government has failed to put proper resources in where people deem it to be essential. Mr. Speaker, I go on to the third issue, and that is to deliver market signals to producers. This is what KPMG have said. What this government has refused to do is to provide any leadership across agriculture, particularly in the area of the meat sector. My colleague in the House here, the Honourable Winston Peters, has brought to the attention of the House today the fact that some of the government's own mates are overseeing a process that is effectively going to hand to Shanghai Meiling, Mr. Speaker, over 50% in effective control of the biggest meat country in this country. And you know what? That crowd over there want it to happen. They want it to happen. They'll get their mates in the process, Mr. Speaker, to facilitate it, because they want to sell any agribusiness they can into the hands of foreign investors, because they believe that is success. Mr. Speaker, the failure to deliver any guidance, any leadership across the meat industry is going to mean that New Zealanders lose control of destiny and meat. It's a massive failure of the current government in the primary sectors.
I call the Honourable Louise Upson.
E te mana whakawā.